So just to introduce Jason, Jason is with Robomatter. They're the people who produce the certifications that are used by the REC Foundation. And Jason is going to give us an overview of all the certifications that are available. Take it away.
All right, thank you very much. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here with everyone this afternoon. It's a pleasure talking to all the REC and also all of the event partners. I'd like to obviously start off by saying thank you to the event partners for everything that you've done and everything that you continue to do. Obviously, these are very difficult times right now, so really can't thank you enough for continuing to do everything that you're doing, with the students, with the competition teams, wherever you are. So I wanted to start off with a quick thank you to express that. As was just mentioned, I'm here to talk about all the different certifications that we currently have. Also give a quick preview of some of the ones that we have upcoming. I'm not sure how long the presentation will take. I'm here to answer whatever questions that you may have about it. But in terms of the actual content, I don't think it will take too long to get through everything. First of all, just a little bit of a history. We started the certification program last year. The first two certifications that we came out with were for the VexIQ and the V5 platform. Shortly thereafter that, we came out with certifications for head referees for last year's VRC and VexIQ game. The head referee certifications that we did last year were very successful by the metric of we had over 2,300 head referees get certified. So we didn't think that many would actually be certified, but it was really, really successful. Obviously, there are still some improvements that we can make, and we've gotten a lot of feedback from people about those improvements. One of the improvements that we made this year, based upon your feedback, and this was really kind of spearheaded by the REC and Jim Crane, was this year, as many of you I'm sure know, we do have a driver team certification. So we got a lot of feedback last year from folks, and it was like, hey, this is all great information. I would love for members of my team to be able to go through this certification so that I'm making sure that they've read the game manual. I know that they know the rules, kind of so on and so forth. So as a result of that, Jim gave us the information. We were able to go ahead and give that driver team certification. I know there is an issue right now in terms of students registering for it. It asks them questions like, what subjects do you teach? It's the same registration that we have for teachers. We're going to get that updated here within the next couple of weeks. But as I'm sitting here right now, I checked before we got started here. We have over 370. We have exactly 370 students currently certified as driver team members. So that's gone really well also. So once again, just to kind of give you an overview of the certifications that we have now, we obviously we work real close with Jim to update the head referee certifications based upon each year's game. We had the head referee certification out, I think, and Jim can correct me if I'm wrong on this, I think it was like 2 to 3 weeks after the game was actually released. So we were able to get out the head referee real quick after we were able to get after the game was actually, so that was really, really nice. In terms of our educator certification programs, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we do have the VexIQ and the V5 certifications. We just added a new one a few weeks ago, and that is our Learn More About Computer Science with VexCode VR certification. So basically, as I'm sure many of you know, in response to everything that was going on with COVID-19, back in April, we did release VexCode VR. Obviously, there was a big shift in schools in which you had millions of teachers in this country and all over the world that were no longer teaching out of their classrooms, but instead they were teaching out of their living rooms or their kitchens. And obviously the kids could not take the robots home with them. So what we want to be able to do is those teachers that were using Vex in their classrooms, we wanted to provide them with an opportunity so that they can continue to stay connected to the Vex ecosystem, still use Vex while they were doing distance learning. And that was really the genesis behind VexCode VR. From idea to execution, it was only 3 weeks. We wanted to get something into the teachers' hands as fast as possible. But we relied upon feedback, and since we had that initial release back in April, we've added over 100 new features to VexCode VR based upon the feedback that we've gotten. We've had almost 10 million projects run in VexCode VR, over 200,000 unique users. So it's been massively successful based upon, as I mentioned earlier, really being able to pivot what we were doing based upon everything that was going on in the world and in schools with COVID-19. Also, as a result of that, because we had such mass use in VexCode VR, what we wanted to be able to do was be able to create this Teaching CS with VexCode VR certification. Now, one thing I want to be really clear about is the fact that this is not a certification in VexCode VR per se. So what do I mean by that? Our certifications in IQ and V5 are certifications in that platform. So we want to teach you the mechanics of the robot. We want to teach you a little bit of programming with the robot. We want to expose you to what is available via our STEM labs that you could use with the robot. We want to expose you a little bit about competitions if you're interested in pursuing that with either a V5 or an IQ robot. We expose you to the knowledge base. So what we want to do there is that we want to make you an expert on those platforms, IQ and V5. This certification that we have with VexCode VR, it's a pre-configured robot, so there's nothing really to teach you on that per se, just about the sensors and whatnot. So this certification that we have here is really about computer science itself. It works like all of our certifications work. First of all, it's free, so it's not going to cost you anything. Second of all, it's all online and it's self-paced. So if you've taken any of our certifications previously, you know that you can get started with a particular unit or a lesson within a unit. After you go through that lesson or unit, you can answer questions. And what this bar over here on the right will do is it will track your progress as you go through a particular lesson. So if I have a lot of time on a weekend, and if I want to be able to go in and spend a lot of time on a particular weekend and I really dive in and learn something, but I can't come back and touch it for another 2 weeks or so, this will help keep your progress and show you what's involved in it. So when I talk about CS and how the fact that it's really emphasized in this course, what exactly are we teaching in terms of computer science in this course? The first unit, the first introduction that we have, just goes through a lot of the basics of the support material that we've created for you. How to navigate the course, using the knowledge base. This first course is all about using the blocks. We do have Python and VexCode VR, but this is the introductory course. This uses the blocks. So why you should begin teaching programming with blocks, some of the benefits of VexCode VR. Unit 2 now gets into the actual programming itself, how to make your robot move forward, how to make it turn, so on and so forth. Each unit that we have, each of the programming units that we have, is centered around a challenge that we have or a playground that we have in VexCode VR. So you can see here, Unit 2 is all organized around the Castle Crasher challenge. So what we do is in the introduction, we introduce you to that challenge, and basically we say, okay, now we're going to go through and teach you everything that you need to know in order to be able to solve that challenge. The way that it works then actually in the course, and I'll go back to the course to show this to you real quick, but the way that it works actually within the course is we go here and we talk about driving for a distance, go through the actual lesson. This is the direct instruction that walks you through everything. Then at the end of this, okay, we'll have some formative assessment questions built into it. This works just like the questions in every other course. So you can answer the question, you can check your answer. If your question is correct, fantastic. I can then go to the next question. If I get the answer wrong, I can then see the solution, okay, or I can then retry it again and say, okay, I got the answer right. That's right or wrong. That's great. The reason why we do this, once again, this is formative assessment. We're not trying to hide the answer from you, right? We want you to be able to see it so that you can learn from it and you can then apply it. As you continue to go into subsequent lessons, as I go into lesson 3 here, at the end of this one, now I'll actually have a mini challenge. This is another example of formative assessment we have built into it. So we break down the skills that you need to be able to know for that unit challenge at the end. For this one, it's the Castle Crasher. We then foreground each of those skills for you in the lessons. At the end of the lesson, we give you some formative assessment questions, and in most of them, we have a mini challenge here for you that you essentially can check your understanding, so that at the very end, now you can apply everything to the challenge that is in every single unit that we have. Okay, so we put a lot of thought, a lot of time, a lot of effort into the scaffolding that goes into this course in order to make you successful if you're just learning how to teach computer science. One of the coolest features that we have in VEX Code VR is the pen tool. As you can see here, we have an entire unit devoted to that. This is a great way to introduce the repeat block here, be able to use the pen tool. When I talk about teaching computer science with robotics, one of the advantages I talk about all the time is that robotics provides you with an authentic and a contextualized experience to learn a lot of these computer science concepts, right? Authentic in the fact that robots are obviously used in real life all the time, so it makes a connection between what the students are doing in the classroom and what people are doing in the real world with those applications. But contextualized in that I'm not just introducing a repeat loop to introduce it, but instead it's necessary in order to be able to do the activities that are found in the lesson or in the playground itself. So, just like if I'm going through a maze, for example, it's a great way to introduce an if-else conditional block. Be able to contextualize those things for the students or for you, the teachers, are going through the PD, and that just makes the learning a lot more meaningful as you go through it. In Unit 4, now we're going to use the bumper sensor, and we're going to introduce the wait until block as we do that. Unit 5, now you're going to do the distance sensor. In Unit 5 now, we also begin talking about the pros and cons of each sensor. So why now I would use the distance sensor and why that would be an advantage as opposed to the bumper sensor. So we don't just within the units tell you what the functionality of the sensor is, but instead we also in addition tell you this is why you'd want to use one sensor as opposed to another one. One of the coolest things that we've built into VEX Code VR is the location sensor. So the XY coordinates on the playgrounds themselves, being able to use that to go to specific locations on the playground and being able to understand the logic contained therein so I can program my robot to go to specific spots on the playground. We cover that in Unit 6 and go through how to do that. Unit 7, beginning with that, now we're going into some more complex things. So now we're going to use an eye sensor, and now we're going to understand how to use conditions, right? How to make decisions with the eye center, and then how can I make decisions more than once with loops. So now we're beginning to introduce the concepts of program flow, right? This is something that most people, when they're first introduced to computer science, have a very difficult time understanding. How does the flow of my project actually determine what my robot is doing? So we get into that in Unit 7. Unit 8, now we're getting into the electromagnet. Now we're getting into nesting loops to go back to again about project flow. So now you can see we've taken you from the very, very beginning, Unit 2, when you were a novice, right, and you just want to make your robot move and turn. Now we're getting into some pretty complex computer science topics like project flow, nesting loops, using conditional statements. Finally, that all kind of culminates in Unit 9 with algorithms. So now in Unit 9 with the dynamic Castle Crasher challenge, you're going to have to learn how to program two sensors together so that you can solve the challenge successfully. So that idea of sensor fusion. How can I program my robot so it's able to take in the values of those two sensors simultaneously so I can make successful decisions based upon the challenge that is given to me? So once again, some pretty advanced computer science topics and algorithms that we're getting into now. And then finally, Unit 10, we get into teaching with VEX Code VR. So the activities that we have, how can I assess students, how do I share project files, all that information is now located inside of Unit 10. That's a quick rundown of what we have in our Teaching CS with VEX Code VR course. As I mentioned at the very beginning, it is a computer science course. This is not a certification just in the VEX Code VR, quote unquote robot. It is a virtual robot, but instead this is a certification in computer science. So we're really excited to be able to share this with our community. This has been live for about 2.5 weeks now. We have about 60 educators already certified, so that's great. We haven't done a lot of marketing or publicity for it yet. So hopefully, if you have some time this summer, if you want to get certified, you can go in and jump right into it right now. But we're really excited to share this certification with the community. It's the newest one that we have, and once again, we're really excited about it. We obviously plan on having more in the future. As I mentioned a few moments ago, we do now have the blocks to text transition in VEX Code VR. Where students can program their robots in blocks, or they can program it in Python. In the upcoming months, we'll have a certification that kind of covers that. So there are some things in blocks that we haven't done yet, like variables and functions, which are my blocks. We'll cover that and then get into some Python. And then obviously we'll have a certification that really gets into the Python programming language after that. In terms of upcoming certifications that we have, this is on our internal test server right now, as you can see in the URL up here. So this is not live yet, but this is our event partner certification course that we've been working really hard with Lisa and her team to get out to all of you. I believe Lisa's talked about this a little bit, and I'll invite her to jump in if she wants to add anything else to this. Just like we do when we work with the REC for all of our certifications, they give us the content, and we kind of, we try to make the content look nice with graphics and whatnot, and we put it into our engine, our certification engine here. But just like with the referee course, the game manual determines everything that goes in there, and Jim works with us to put all the information in here. We've worked with Lisa and a team that she had to take all the content that they've created and put it into the event partner certification course. It's going to work exactly, just from a functional standpoint, it's going to work exactly just like all the rest of the courses that we have. This one has, I believe, 12 units in it. After you complete the unit exam and all 12 units, the certification exam down here will be unlocked for you. You have an opportunity to take the certification exam at that point. If you pass the certification exam, you're awarded a certificate. If you do not pass the certification exam, you'll have an opportunity to retake it. You will be locked out for 24 hours, but then you'll have an opportunity to retake it then afterwards. But this is something that we've been working on for a couple months now. They've been working on the content, and we've been working on the ingestion, as I mentioned, for a couple months now. And this will be, in your hands in the not too distant future that you'll be able to explore and do. The next one that we have then coming up after this that we're actively working on right now is a certification for judges. So we have a judges certification that we have not started the ingestion process of yet. We're still finalizing the content of that. Once that content is finalized, which should happen here really any day, we'll begin the ingestion process of that also. So in the fall, that's another thing that you could begin looking forward to, is a judges certification course, which will once again run the exact same way as all of our certification courses run. It's the same engine, so the same quizzing engine and whatnot. All of that will be included in there. Okay, Lisa, I'm not sure if you wanted to add anything about the the event partner certification while you're on the call.
Yeah, thank you, Jason, and thanks for having that up so everyone can see it. Again, I've mentioned in a few sessions earlier, but the intent of this EP certification is really targeted towards that new EP as the target audience. But again, you can see there's a lot of great units in there, so even experienced EPs might find a lot of value in sort of going through some of these units. And we really do want feedback from event partners to make this an extremely useful resource. So once it's released, we will share that on an EP blast to our community so that people can take a look at it and try it out. And again, please let us know if there's ways that we can improve it for the future years. And again, it's not a requirement for EPs to do. It's an optional resource, but we're just highly encouraging them to try it out. Thank you.
Very welcome. So that's our event partner certification. As I mentioned, in our immediate roadmap, we do have a judges certification. We work very closely with the REC to get feedback from all of you. If there are other certifications that you would like to see, that's always something that we can discuss and we can talk about. I know Tarek is always suggesting certifications for us to make, so I'm sure there's other folks that have some feedback that they would like to be able to see, and we're happy to get that and prioritize it as needed. Okay. Just a couple logistical things real quick in terms of the certifications that exist right now. We do have a means for the referee certifications that we can track who gets certified where. So if you want to know who all of the certified head referees in your state are, we can provide that information to you. You would have to work with Jim Crane through that. but we have a means to give Jim all that information. So if, once again, if you were running, your state competition and you wanted to know who all the head referees in your state were, we would be able to provide that information to you. That same functionality is built into our engine. So when the judge's certification is completed, if you'd want that same information as an event partner, so once again, if you're running a state competition and you wanted to see all the certified judges in your particular state, that is functionality that we have already kind of built into the certification system. So that would be something that we would be able to do. We'd reach out to Jim, obviously, for the referees. For the judges stuff, I'm assuming it would probably be either Steve or Cheryl that you would work through for that. Okay, but just kind of logistically, all that functionality works. Okay. And Jim, and also just one point of clarification: if you can work through your regional support manager, who would then work with Jim in order to be able to get you the information about the head referee certifications. All right. Really, that is, I'm happy to go into more detail about any of the certification programs or our newest one, VexCode VR, if anyone has any questions. But really, that's an overview of all the certifications that we have and the ones that we have in our immediate roadmap, as I just mentioned to you. So I'm happy to stay on and answer whatever questions that you may have right now, or demo anything with the certifications right now.
Hey, Jason, this is Lisa. For those that have have previously taken a certification, let's say the V5 or VexIQ one, are there any updates that are being expected, or any sort of future certifications planned?
Yeah, thank you. So we did update both the IQ and the V5 certifications for the new game. So in the last unit of each of those certifications, Unit 10 deals with competitions. So we talk about that year's competition. We link to the game manual and things of that nature. So all of that has been updated to once again reflect this year's game. From a software perspective, as many of you hopefully know, we did release a Python version for V5 that came out, I think, 2 weeks ago. I think 2 Mondays ago, the Python version for V5 came out. We will soon be adding a C++ version to V5, and we will also very soon be adding a C++ version to IQ. So as a result of that, we will be making updates to the certification course in the fall, probably November, December timeframe, to reflect those updates that we've made to the software. Yes. If you've got certified, everyone's certification is valid, obviously. But if you wanted to be able to go in, or if you had a new teacher, new coach, whoever, will only be able to go in and do the certifications. As we release more updates to the software, we work hard to make sure that those certificates are coming out. The other thing is that I believe there was a presentation earlier today on VexGo and Vex 123. We will have certification programs available for them. We just started working on the VexGo Educator Certification Program about a week ago. We're working on the software for that right now. So once we kind of get the software wrapped up, we'll be able to create the certification for that. You can expect the certification for VexGo to be done in August, towards the end of August. So the idea there is teachers for back to school, the VexGo certification will be done for them. The Vex 123 certification will be done shortly thereafter that. So closer to the end of September, early October timeframe, the Vex 123 educator certification will be done. Those will be just like the V5 and the IQ certification. Those are product trainings. So we're going to teach you everything that you wanted to know about the VexGo product itself, and we're going to teach you everything that you want to know about the Vex 123 product itself. So those will be ones that we'll have upcoming to support those two new products that we'll have.
So Jason, you did have one question. It was about how many people have actually passed the teacher certification, and a second question is, are we going to have anything for the Vex AI competition at some point in the future?
I'll take the second one first. For the Vex AI competition, I would imagine we would have something in the future. Yes, I would not expect anything this year. But in terms of like in the future around this time next year, I would imagine that we would probably have some type of certification program around that. Anytime that we try to release a new product, we try to make sure that we have plenty of support for that product. So that means that we have, knowledge-based articles and, obviously the software support and things of that nature. And that also includes professional development. So we'll have that too. So no firm date in terms of the AI, but that is something that we'll definitely look at. In terms of educator certification metrics, we have we have around 1,300 certified educators right now. That includes both IQ and V5. We have slightly more IQ certified educators than V5. But yeah, we have over 1,000 certified educators right now with our certification. So we're really proud of that.
So Jason, another question just came in. Did I understand that there'll be a certification for the VEX code text for IQ when that software is released?
There will not be a certification when the software is released. We will have that software released by the end of the month. There will not be a certification associated with it at that time. There will be updates to the current VEX IQ certification, though, like I mentioned to you, in the fall to reflect that, but there won't be a separate one that's released to go with it, and we won't have updates in the current certification course for it for that release at the end of this month.
Jason, I just had another question that I've heard before. If teachers or educators have feedback for these certifications, what's the best way to get that feedback to you guys?
Yeah, so the best way to get us, there's a couple ways, that you can give us feedback. If you have feedback about the software itself, we do have the feedback button in the software. So if you're going through the certification course and you if you think a block isn't working correctly, or if you think the help that we have for the block is unhelpful, or if your project's not downloading, whatever those particular things are, please use the feedback button in the software that you'll be able to send to us. That comes directly to our software devs. We have an internal Slack channel that it feeds directly into. We're able to see your project file, your operating system, your version, all that stuff is given to us. If you provide your email with your question, we'll be able to follow up then with you with whatever that particular question is. If you have a question about the course itself, so if you're going through Unit 2 of our VEX Code VR robot or our VEX Code VR course, if you're down here and you're doing a question, if you go and you answer this question, you go to check it and this question is right, you actually think it's wrong, just go ahead and click this feedback button right over here on the right. I get an email every morning with everyone that's clicked this button and all the different information that goes with it. You can then type in the feedback form, like I think the answer should be this and not this, or whatever those particular things are. You can rate the course. You can make it 4 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars, 1 star. You can rate the particular page you're on or whatever. But the best way to give us that type of particular feedback is to go ahead and to use the feedback button that we have right there in the course.
All right. So yeah, you have another question, which is, will there be a driver certification for IQ in addition to VRC?
Probably not. The reason why is because of COPA regulations. The age for COPA is 13. I have to be 13 and above to be able to provide any information on the Internet or things of that nature. So in the near-term future, we wanted to avoid all of that, which is why we had the VRC driver team certification course come through. If we will investigate ways that we could potentially get around that, that's going to require a lot of dev work, and there's a lot of stuff on our plate right now. So really just a question of priority to be able to do that. So to create in our certification system that would essentially screen users if they say that they are over 13, that basically validate and verify that. That's the type of dev that we would have to do in order to be able to do a driver team certification for IQ. Can we do it? Yes. Will it be expensive to do? Yes. So just in terms of all the different priorities, if we get a lot of feedback from the EPs that say that they really want to need this, we can obviously reprioritize, but we made the decision now not to prioritize because of, we want to make sure that we get the VexGo certification out, the event partner certification out, this one with CS VexCode VR, the 1, 2, 3. So that's why we do deprioritize that.
All righty, and we're also being asked if the certifications for VexCode are appropriate for a curriculum such that they can be used to teach programming to students. In other words, is the material detailed enough?
Our introductory, our CS with VexCode VR, yes, it is detailed enough. So if you were teaching an introductory computer science course, I would be very confident in saying that our teaching CS with VexCode VR course does a very, very good job of teaching you those introductory programming concepts. And it does cover a lot of programming concepts, as I mentioned at the beginning, starting off with basic drivetrain commands and the logic contained therein, till you get all the way through at the end where you're making some pretty and fairly complex algorithms to be able to do that. We also, teach it very well. There's a lot of, not a lot, but there's a fair amount of PD out there for computer science. Not a lot of it is good, if I'm being brutally honest. We spent a lot of time thinking about the scaffolding of this course in terms of, how can we break down the skills that a teacher would need in order to be able to learn these particular concepts, whether it's around loops, whether it's around conditional statements, whether it's around nesting loops or building an algorithm. We have heavy scaffolding located within the course itself, within the unit itself, So as I mentioned to you earlier, we break down the skills in individual lessons. We then teach you via direct instruction what you need for that lesson. We give you an opportunity to diagnose your understanding via the formative assessment questions and then the mini challenge. And we foreground all the concepts that you need so you can then perform the unit challenge. We essentially take that scaffolding away at the end and give you an opportunity to apply it to yourself with that unit challenge. That scaffolding is contained within each unit, but it also then goes from unit to unit. So between unit 2 and unit 3 and unit 4, we very incrementally build your skills and knowledge. So by the time you're done with the course, you have a very good and fundamental understanding of what algorithms are and how they can be applied and how they can be made. There's a lot of research out there. Even if you're taking an introductory computer science course in college, most of the students, when they graduate from that course, do not know how to do basic tracing of the flow of a project via program flow. Okay, so that's an introductory college computer science course. So if you're teaching a high school computer science course, or if you're teaching an elementary school or a middle school computer science course, does our introductory CS course that I showed you here a moment ago teach you enough skills to get started to teach that curriculum? Yes.
All righty, and one more question here. Once you're certified, can you go back and redo the test to make sure that your skills and knowledge are still up to date?
As of today, no, you cannot do that. Once you take the certification exam once, you cannot go back in and take the certification exam again. We've gotten a couple different bits of feedback concerning the certification exam. Probably the number one bit of feedback about this is something that Lisa asks us about all the time. If I passed the test and I missed 3 questions, can I go back and see what those 3 questions are? Or if I failed the certification exam, can I see the questions that I got wrong? That's a bunch of feedback that we've gotten that we look forward to implementing here, as I mentioned to you earlier, later on this fall, early part of the winter. If we get a lot of feedback around that particular one right there, that's certainly something that we can put on our roadmap. That's actually the first time I've heard that bit of feedback. But if we get more people requesting that, we can certainly look into doing that. But as of right now, no, you cannot do that.
All righty. We have any more questions? I do see one that's popped up, and it has to do with RAD. I will say that from the REC standpoint, we have not set aside any funds yet for developing a RAD certification. We will be working on that. Any other questions for Jason while we've got him?
Software questions? STEM lab questions?
STEM lab questions, software. These guys do it all.
Yeah, I've shared, we had a regional, like a town hall meeting in the Pacific Northwest, and one of the teachers asked me kind of what's the driving force of doing or incorporating Python. They've been doing C++ for a long time, and so they were just kind of curious, is that kind of the new industry standard, or kind of why Python and what are some of its advantages?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in terms of why we chose Python, for example, for VexCode VR first, and why Python is in V5 right now, is Python is, depending upon where you look, Stack Overflow, if you're familiar with that, Stack Overflow is where, programmers can go and get their questions answered about certain things. Stack Overflow releases a survey every year that discusses the most popular programming language in the world. For the last 2 years, Python has been the most popular programming language. It's popular from two perspectives. Number one, programmers like to program with Python because of the ease of the syntax and things of that nature. Then number two, developers like companies like Python because of its portability. It can be used basically across any particular platform, so it makes it really nice from a developer standpoint. If you're making, an application that has to work on everything, Python is a great language to be able to do that. Python is also, this report came out about 3 years ago, but there has not been one, to my knowledge, that's come out to rebut it yet. But they did a survey of introductory computer science courses in college, of what was actually being taught in that introductory computer science course. Python came out number one in that also. Number two was followed by Java, which is not that big of a surprise since Java is on the AP Computer Science B exam. So for those reasons, kind of from industry, is why we chose to go with Python as an emphasis with our text-based programming language. Kind of selfishly, from a business standpoint, to be transparent with you, Python is required in the UK. So all students in the UK have to take Python. So that was another consideration that we had going into it, was not only its popularity from an industry standpoint, but also from a school standpoint. There are a lot of countries around the world that currently require Python in their computer science curriculum. So that's kind of the other reason that we went with it. We will still support C++, obviously. As I mentioned to you a moment ago, we'll have that in both V5 and IQ here in the not too distant future. We sometimes get, questions about stuff like JavaScript. Will you ever incorporate JavaScript into, V5 or whatever? With languages like that, we want to make sure that the language adheres to what we're trying to do with the robot. So if there's not a lot of applications with a particular language to things that you would do with the robot, then that would not be something that we would prioritize. It's probably a better experience for users to use JavaScript to create web pages as opposed to make your robot do something, for example. But go ahead, Tarek, I'm sorry.
Yep, I was going to say you've got some more questions here. One is, are your STEM labs virtual or hands-on?
Both. I'm not sure what is meant kind of by virtual, but can you do the STEM labs via distance learning? Yes, you can. That would obviously assume that the students had a robot. If you do not have a robot, if the students don't have a robot, that's why we came out with the activities for VexCode VR. So we have VexCode VR activities right now. We will begin working here real soon to add to those activities with more STEM lab-like curriculum here in the future, because we know a lot of teachers are going to be going back to school this fall and still have to do distance learning. So just stay tuned to VEX, stay tuned to the REC. You'll soon here in the next upcoming weeks hear more about more curriculum that we'll be developing around VexCode VR to be able to do that distance learning. Just from an instructional delivery standpoint, however, if you as a teacher wanted your students to follow along a particular STEM lab as they had their robot at home, whether that was a Go robot, a 1, 2, 3 robot, or a obviously an IQ or a V5, they could obviously do that, yes.
All righty. Next question is that when VEX code text for IQ is released, will it be in a final enough form to use this season? And for those already using Robot C for text-based coding, will it still be allowed for the season?
If Robot C will be allowed for the season, that's an REC question, so one of you all can take that. What was the first part of the question,
yes.
sorry?
When VEX code text for IQ is released, will it be in a final enough form for use this season?
Yes. Yes. You can take the
Okay.
Robot C question part.
Yeah, the answer to that is yes.
There you go.
As well. Software question here. How do you deal with the light sensor and the holes in the black on the I think they mean or the black lines in VEX IQ field? It says on.
Yeah. So the color sensor with the VEX IQ is a source of continued frustration in terms of people trying to use it and people like being able to use it. We have a knowledge base article in our queue to give you some points about how to actually tune it. So that you'll be able to do that. So you can look for the upcoming here in a few short weeks about a knowledge-based article about how to tune your color sensor with your IQ appropriately to get the best results of it. Right now, without doing that tuning, it is a little bit difficult to use, but we'll have a knowledge-based article here shortly to hopefully make that experience easier for you.
Already, great. Next question is, will V5 Code Pro be made available for the Linux operating system? This person uses it to keep older equipment functional, and low budget schools he thinks or she thinks would probably appreciate it.
We've gotten a few questions about porting VEX Code Pro V5 onto Linux, but since it's just been a few, that has not been something that we've prioritized at this point right now. So right now you cannot do that. And it's not on our immediate roadmap, just simply because, as I mentioned to you, we haven't gotten a lot of demand for that right now. If folks do want to do that, you can use the feedback button in the software to request that.
Cool. And one last question, unless somebody else comes up with another one, and that is, will there be a version of VEX Code text for IQ that is Python-based rather than C++ based?
No. Limitations in the memory of the VEX IQ preclude us from doing that.
Simple enough. Well, I don't see any other questions coming in, and I think this has been a great session, a lot of important information that's been made available. I know I've learned actually a bit just sitting here and listening to it, so it's always fun. Anyways, thank you guys for everything you do, and I think we're probably going to wrap this one up for the day. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, thank you. And just once again, thank you to all of the EPs out there for everything that you've done, everything that you continue to do, and for really facing head on all the challenges going on with this competition here. Thank you to the REC for inviting me to come and talk about all of this today. And thank you for all the great resources that you all continue to provide, and you're especially providing right now, once again, as teams try to deal with everything going on in the world. So thank you to both the REC and to the event partners.